People still talk about that night. The red carpet, the lights, the feeling in the air that something special was about to happen. No one expected anything unusual. It was just another movie premiere in a long list of Hollywood events. But then, everyone froze. Cameras stopped moving. Whispers spread through the crowd. Because Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, two people known for their quiet grace and deep respect for each other, shared a moment so real and emotional that it felt like the world paused to feel it too. But to understand what happened that night, we need to go back to the beginning, to a time when both of them were young, trying to find their place in a world that looked glamorous from far away, but was heavy and difficult once you stepped inside. They first met on a movie set, where long hours and quiet moments created a connection. They understood each other without many words. They laughed easily. They trusted without trying. And even when life moved them in different directions, the bond never faded. Keanu had always lived with a quiet sadness. He carried pain that he almost never spoke about. People admired his calm, his kindness, his gentle soul, but very few knew the weight he carried. He lost people he loved. He experienced heartbreak and grief. And yet, he never let bitterness change him. He chose to stay kind. He chose to stay humble. He chose compassion again and again. That is what made him different. That is what made people love him deeply without even knowing him personally. Sandra had her own struggles. The pressure of Hollywood was intense. Mistakes became headlines. Personal moments became public judgment. People saw her smile, her confidence, her charm. Few saw the nights she cried alone. Few saw the moments she wondered if she was enough. But she kept going. She kept trying. Her resilience was something silent, but strong, like a soft flame that refused to go out. When they saw each other again after years, it was backstage at an award show. Sandra was nervous. She had been dealing with rumors, criticism, stress. She held herself together, but inside she was tired. And then she saw him standing there, quiet, gentle, with that sincere warmth in his eyes. Keanu smiled, not the smile of Hollywood, but the smile of someone who truly cared. She did not have to pretend with him. They talked softly away from cameras. They laughed about old memories, and she felt something she had missed for a long time: peace, a sense of being understood, being safe. So when they walked onto the red carpet again later that evening, people noticed something different. Not dramatic, not loud, but real. Keanu noticed her hand shaking just a little. Without hesitation, he reached out and pulled her into a hug that said more than words could ever express. He held her with tenderness, with familiarity, with respect. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself breathe. Cameras flashed. Reporters gasped. Fans went quiet. It was not romantic. It was not staged. It was simply love in its purest form. Love as understanding. Love as comfort. Love as loyalty. And in that moment, the world remembered something it often forgets. Fame does not protect people from pain. Success does not remove loneliness. Everyone needs someone who sees them, truly sees them. Someone who says without words, "It is okay, I am here." And that is where their new story began. The moment after that hug, the world reacted fast. News outlets began posting photos within minutes. Social media exploded with comments, theories, excitement, and curiosity. Some people said they always believed Keanu and Sandra shared something deeper. Others said it was just a friendly moment between old friends. But no one could deny the truth that could be seen in their eyes. There was history there. There was emotion. There was something real. But what people did not know was what happened once the cameras stopped, once the lights dimmed, once they walked inside the event hall, away from the red carpet noise. Sandra and Keanu found themselves standing in a quiet corner near a window, looking out at the city lights below. The noise of the event filled the background, but it felt distant, like it belonged to another world. Keanu noticed Sandra's breathing was uneven. He could see the tension she tried so hard to hide. He asked softly, "Are you okay?" She nodded, but her eyes said something else. There was a silent heaviness in her gaze. She tried to smile, but it did not reach her heart. She whispered, "Sometimes it feels like I have to be strong all the time. Like people expect me to never break, never show weakness." And if I do, the world will pick it apart and call it failure. I get tired, Keanu. Really tired. He listened. He did not interrupt. He did not try to fix her feelings. He simply stood with her, letting her speak her truth, knowing that sometimes the most powerful support is silent presence. Keanu understood that feeling all too well. He had lived through loss that most people could not imagine, and yet, he never let the world see the depth of his pain. He smiled gently and said, "You do not have to be strong with me. You can just be you." Those words landed deep. For a moment, Sandra felt something inside her soften, as if she had been holding her breath for years and was finally allowed to exhale. They sat down together at a small table, away from the crowd. The dim lights cast a warm glow around them. They spoke about life, about things that mattered, about the moments that shaped them. They laughed at small memories from their early days, when everything was simpler and life felt full of possibility. They talked about mistakes, regrets, dreams still held close to their hearts. Then something unexpected happened. A reporter, unnoticed at first, moved closer, holding a camera, trying to get a hidden picture, trying to catch something raw and vulnerable to sell. Keanu noticed instantly. Without raising his voice, without anger, he stood up and blocked the camera with his body. His posture was calm but firm. His silence held power. The reporter froze, surprised by his strength without aggression. Keanu simply said, "Please respect her. This moment is not yours to take." The reporter slowly backed away. Sandra watched the whole thing, and her eyes filled with emotion again, but this time the feeling was different. It was gratitude. Deep gratitude, not for the protection itself, but for the way he protected her, gently, respectfully, without making her feel weak or small, because that is who Keanu Reeves is. A man who does not need to prove anything. A man who protects without asking for praise. A man who shows kindness not for attention, but because it is who he is at his core. That night was not about romance or rumors. It was about something more powerful. To people who had walked through fire, recognizing the flames in each other, and choosing to offer warmth instead of judgment, and the world had only seen the beginning. The next morning, the internet was overflowing with headlines. Photos of the hug were everywhere. Some called it the most genuine moment Hollywood had seen in years. Others created wild stories, trying to turn something pure into something dramatic. But behind all the noise, something quiet was happening. Something real. Keanu and Sandra had reconnected, not just publicly, but emotionally. Yet, life does not slow down just because we need time. Both of them had schedules, commitments, interviews, and new pressures created by the attention. Sandra tried to follow her routine as usual, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the night before. The warmth of the hug, the way he looked at her like she was seen, truly seen, the way he protected her without taking her voice from her. Still, something inside her felt heavy. There was something she had not told him, a truth she had carried for years. Back when they first worked together, Sandra had feelings for Keanu. Real feelings, the kind that came quietly like soft rain, but stayed like roots growing deep. She never said anything because she believed timing was wrong. She was not sure if he felt the same. And life kept moving. Different relationships, new experiences, separate paths. But now, standing in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at her own reflection, she wondered if she had made a mistake, if silence had cost her something precious. Meanwhile, Keanu was sitting in his small kitchen drinking coffee, the morning sun falling across the table. He was thinking too. He remembered the way she looked when she talked last night, the vulnerability in her voice, the exhaustion she hid from the world. He had always admired her strength, but he respected her softness even more. He wondered if there was something she wanted to say but could not. He wondered if he should reach out or give her space. Finally, he picked up his phone. He typed a simple message, "Are you free today?" He stared at the screen for a moment, then pressed send. Sandra saw the message within seconds. Her heart jumped, not from panic, but from something warm, something hopeful. She took a breath and replied, "Yes, I would like that." They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe outside the city, away from cameras, away from noise, away from the world that always wanted to take pieces of them. When Sandra arrived, Keanu was already there, sitting at a corner table near a window. Sunlight touched his face gently. He looked up, and their eyes met. There was no awkwardness, no forced conversation, just a quiet understanding. They talked again, but this time, the words were deeper. Sandra told him about the pressure she felt, the loneliness that fame never cured, the confusion of trying to be strong when sometimes she really just wanted to rest. Keanu listened with patience, with empathy, with that quiet presence that made everything feel safe. But then, the moment she feared came. She looked down, voice soft, and said, "There is something I never told you. Something I wish I had said years ago." Keanu stayed still, present, waiting. She said, "I cared about you, not just as a friend. I think I always did." Her voice trembled, but she did not look away. The cafe was silent. Time slowed. Keanu's single quotes, as eyes softened. There was no shock, no discomfort, only sincerity. He replied, "I cared about you too. I still do." Sandra felt her heart break and heal all at once, because his voice was calm, truthful, steady. But then he added something she did not expect. "But caring does not always mean the timing is right." The words hung in the air like a fragile thread. And in that moment, the story shifted. Those words sat between them, gentle but heavy. Sandra felt her chest tighten. She did not know whether to feel hope or heartbreak. Keanu did not speak them to push her away. He spoke them with care, like someone who understood the weight of timing better than most. She looked down at her hands, trying to make sense of the emotions rising inside her. She whispered, "I know. I just needed you to know the truth. I think I kept it inside for too long. And keeping it silent was hurting me." Keanu nodded slowly. Silence stretched, but it was not cold. It was thoughtful, honest, the kind of silence where both people were trying to understand their own hearts. After a moment, he said quietly, "When we first met, I was broken. I didn't know how to let anyone close. You were someone I admired, someone I respected. I did not want to bring my pain into your world." Sandra looked up. His eyes were steady, but there was something deep behind them, something old, something scarred. She asked softly, "Are you still carrying that pain?" Keanu breathed in, then let it out slowly. "Some parts of grief never leave, but I learned how to live with it. I learned how to grow around it. But sometimes when I care too much, it scares me, because losing someone you love changes the way you love forever." Sandra understood more than she expected. She had lost people too. She had been betrayed. She had loved deeply and painfully. She knew what it felt like to be afraid to love again. So, instead of pushing further, she said the only words that felt true. "Then we do not rush this. We do not force this. We just stay honest." Those words softened everything. Keanu smiled. It was small, but real. "Thank you," he said. "Not everyone understands that love can take time. That closeness doesn't have to be claimed or labeled. Sometimes it just needs to breathe." They sat together for a long time, sipping coffee, talking lightly about simple things. The sky outside shifted from morning brightness to soft afternoon gold. The world moved slowly, but in the best way. When they finally stepped outside the cafe, they walked together through a small park. No cameras, no noise, just a people who finally allowed themselves to be real again. A small group of fans noticed them walking together. They did not shout. They did not push forward. They simply smiled, whispering softly, giving space. One woman, older, gentle, approached with kindness in her eyes. She said, "Thank you both for showing the world that kindness still exists." Keanu and Sandra smiled, because she understood. She saw the truth others missed. But life, even when gentle, does not always stay easy. The media began creating stories. Tabloids twisted the hug, the cafe meeting, the public walk. Some headlines praised them. Others tried to create drama where there was none. They called it a secret romance. They accused Sandra of using Keanu for attention. They accused Keanu of playing with her feelings. The world that had celebrated their moment suddenly became the same world trying to tear it apart. Sandra felt the pressure building again. She tried to ignore it, but it followed her everywhere. Paparazzi camped outside her home. Interviewers asked invasive questions. Rumors spread like wildfire. One night, alone in her apartment, she sat on the floor, feeling the weight return, the tiredness, the doubt. the fear that being vulnerable was a mistake. And then her phone buzzed. A message from Keanu. I know things are loud right now. I'm here. No pressure. No demands. Just here. She read it twice. Then again. A tear slipped down her cheek. Because in a world full of noise, he chose to be quiet. Support. And that changed everything. The days that followed were not easy. The noise only grew louder. Sandra tried to smile in interviews, tried to stay strong, but the constant questions exhausted her. She was not afraid of the truth. She was simply tired of being misunderstood, tired of being seen as a headline instead of a human being with real feelings and real struggles. Keanu watched all of this happen from a distance, not because he wanted space, but because he respected her boundaries. He knew how heavy the world's judgment could be. He had lived through it himself. But when he saw the pressure becoming too much, he made a decision. One evening, as the sun was setting, he went to her house. He didn't call first, not to surprise her, but because he knew if he called, she might say she was fine when she wasn't. Sometimes silence hides pain. Sometimes silence is a cry for help. Sandra opened the door slowly. Her face looked tired, like she had been holding up the weight of the sky. But when she saw him standing there, she didn't force a smile. She didn't pretend to be okay. She simply whispered, I'm so tired. Keanu stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. Not the hug from the red carpet. Not the hug the world saw. This one was different, quiet, private, full of understanding. He held her like someone holding a fragile truth. She let herself lean into him. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her shoulders shook with silent tears. He whispered, You don't have to carry everything alone. They went inside and sat on the floor of her living room. No lights, just the evening glow and soft shadows. It felt real, safe, the kind of safe that doesn't need explanation. Sandra finally spoke. I'm not upset because people are talking. I'm upset because they create a story where I am taking advantage of you, where I am using you. And you know that's not who I am. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to be another person who adds weight to your life. Keanu listened, his expression calm, gentle. Then he said something she did not expect. You have never been a burden. Not then, not now, not ever. Her eyes filled again. He continued, The world sees what it wants to see. They do not know us. They do not understand what we have lived. But I do. And that is enough. Those words were a lifeline. After a long silence, Keanu reached into his pocket and took out something simple. A small silver bracelet. It was not fancy, not expensive, not a statement piece. It was quiet, meaningful, thoughtful. He said, This belonged to someone who taught me that life is not about how the world sees you. It's about who stands with you in the quiet moments. I want you to have it. Sandra looked at it slowly. She asked softly, Are you sure? Keanu nodded. Yes. She placed the bracelet on her wrist, and something inside her shifted. Not everything was fixed. Not all the pressure disappeared. But she felt steadier, seen, understood. Not alone. Just then, Sandra's manager called. The new rumors had reached the production team. Public pressure was forcing them to consider removing her from a film project. Her heart dropped. Keanu heard the panic in her breathing, and without hesitation, he said, I'll go with you tomorrow. You won't face them alone. And that was the moment everything changed. Because the world was about to witness not just a hug, not just a reunion, but a quiet battle for dignity, love, and truth. The next morning came too fast. Sandra barely slept, her mind racing with worry. She kept thinking about the meeting ahead. The people who would look at her not as a person, but as a problem to solve, a reputation to manage, a public image to protect. Her stomach felt heavy. Her hands were cold. But when she walked outside, Keanu was already waiting by the car, leaning quietly against the door. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look impatient. He just looked present, steady, like a calm place to return to. She took a breath, walked toward him, and he opened the door for her. No words were needed. The drive was silent but comforting. Just being beside him made her feel grounded. Like no matter what happened in that room, she was not facing it alone. When they entered the meeting, the energy shifted instantly. Executives, producers, and managers looked up, surprised. Whispers moved across the room. Everyone knew Keanu Reeves was respected not because of fame, but because of character. His presence changed the tone immediately. One executive spoke first, his tone careful but firm. There has been controversy in the media. We are concerned that the public narrative will affect the film's image. We need to consider what is best for the project. Sandra listened, holding her hands in her lap to keep them from shaking. She wanted to speak, but the fear of being misunderstood again held her back. Keanu glanced at her gently, silently asking if she wanted him to speak. She shook her head softly. She needed to do this herself, and she did. She sat up straight, her voice steady even though she was trembling inside. I am not responsible for what media invents. I cannot control every rumor, but I can control who I choose to be, and I will not apologize for caring about another human being. Keanu is my friend. He has supported me when I needed it. That is not scandal. That is kindness. The room went still. She continued. Some people think strength means being silent, being untouched, being perfect, but real strength is being honest. It's admitting when you are tired, when you need someone. I won't hide that anymore. There was no anger in her voice, just truth. People stared, unsure how to respond. And then Keanu spoke, gentle but firm, like a calm ocean with quiet power beneath it. If you choose to remove Sandra because she is human, then you are choosing to support an image, not a person. And I will not support that. If she goes, I go. The room changed instantly. Shock, silence, realization. Because Keanu Reeves did not make threats, ever. So when he said something, it meant everything. The executives shifted, exchanging glances. One cleared his throat, finally saying, "We do not want her to leave the project. We simply needed clarity. Thank you for speaking honestly." The meeting ended. The pressure lifted. When they stepped outside into the sunlight, Sandra exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. Her eyes filled, but not with sadness, with relief. She turned to Keanu and whispered, "Thank you." He shook his head softly. "You don't thank people for standing where they want to stand." They walked slowly toward the street, side by side, not holding hands, not trying to look like anything. Just two souls who had been through storms and still chose gentleness. When they reached the car, Sandra paused. She said, "Maybe timing wasn't right before. I understand that now. But maybe timing is something we can grow into. Not rush, not force, just let happen." Keanu looked at her with warmth that didn't need explanation. "Maybe so," he said. They smiled, the kind of smile that feels like home. And as the world outside continued to spin with noise, rumors, opinions, and headlines, they walked forward quietly. Not lovers yet, not strangers anymore, just two hearts choosing to stay close and letting the story unfold in its own time.